Group project chaos. Rugby guy fails while I document everything. Final presentation. We win. Then I reveal the truth. Boom. TLDR on the background. I was in a project group where one member was completely irresponsible and had previously failed the year, while the other two members were diligent. The unproductive member significantly hindered our chances of obtaining a decent grade. We had no choice but to remain together. Skip to, the revenge begins, for the actual retaliation. My university experience has been quite troubled, marked by numerous personal challenges spanning 2 courses, but this narrative does not focus on those issues. Instead, it recounts how my first course reached its conclusion. I spent my entire academic career at a prestigious university in England, with my first course being mechanical engineering. The first year was challenging, particularly with one of my modules, computing essentially programming in Python, where I achieved a score of 98%, with a first being awarded at 70%. I lost the 2% due to one ambiguous comment in a piece of code, which became common knowledge among my peers. This positioned me comfortably at the top of the class in that module, making me a target whenever programming issues arose. Then came the second year. At the beginning of the year, we were informed about a year-long group project, with a selection of projects to choose from, most geared toward other engineering disciplines, one of which involved building a robot to compete, the more desirable option. Competing is exciting. Robots are fascinating. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, how wrong it went. We were divided into groups of 4 or 5, depending on the number of participants. I was placed in one of the groups with 4 members, and during our first meeting, my suspicions that things would go awry quickly emerged. To introduce you to the participants in this calamity, just me. Girl power, the 2 female members. They were fantastic team players. Rugby guy, the main character of the day. He played rugby for the university. The professor, the individual overseeing the project, guiding and advising the teams. The first meeting was meant for introductions, understanding each other's specialties, and exchanging ideas related to robot design and implementation. Girl power promptly informed us of their limited experience in building robots and their not-so-great programming scores, but expressed their willingness to contribute to the design and take on a larger portion of the paperwork. I was initially doubtful, but considered their statements. Then Rugby Guy chimed in, claiming he had previously completed this project. All attention immediately shifted to him. He explained that he had failed the year prior, thus was repeating it now. This is a crucial detail. I inquired if he was familiar with programming, electronics, and design, to which he responded with a brief, "Yeah." He became mostly silent during the rest of the discussion, even when Girl Power and I attempted to incorporate him and seek his input. Eventually, we reached a majority agreement regarding our project and assigned design responsibilities, utilizing CAD software to create the components and model a prototype. The professor explained that all design work must be completed before any implementation attempts, and that everyone was expected to contribute in some way. In a few weeks, we were to present our prototype alongside an explanation of our design process. Naturally, I completed my share of the design work. Girl Power's collaborative efforts also propelled their CAD design along smoothly. I was thrilled with how well they worked together. One couldn't name a more perfect duo. However, my enthusiasm plummeted due to Rugby's total lack of input. His absence hindered our progress. We approached the professor to express our concerns, but he refused to alter his stance. I took it upon myself to fulfill Rugby Guy's responsibilities and even handled what software development I could foresee at that time in an effort to prevent us from falling too far behind. As the presentation approached, we had no robot to show, not even a piece of wood, to exhibit. The professor criticized us mercilessly, clearly disappointed and angry with the glaring lack of productivity from our group. However, Girl Power was prepared for this, having printed substantiation of their contributions. I had printed materials too, showcasing their work under their names, my own verified work, and Rugby Guy's responsibilities, which I also completed. The professor then took us outside, his expression grave, and informed us that each year, there was one problematic group, and with each year he made a proposal to divide them into smaller groups or to keep the group intact. Girl Power was immediately against the idea, insisting they would remain together if split, and they weren't going to separate unless I could go with them. This is the only time I have felt popular with women, clearly. The professor asked for my opinion, and I simply stated that the evidence would speak for itself. He dismissed the evidence, arguing that anyone could write their name on something, which is technically accurate. We exited the initial presentation with a failing grade and a final mark of 2.1 upper second, only achievable with a perfect final output. Given that the group project significantly influenced the course's final grade, a poor score would lead to trouble for the remainder of the course. The professor encouraged us to collaborate as a team to complete the final product to the best of our abilities, along with the necessary documentation covering our distribution of tasks, CAD, software development, time management, materials. All of it. The Revenge Begins TLDR recorded every single incident throughout months of the project, compiled an extensive document filled with screenshots and a zipped file of audio recordings and selfies, utilized university policy to expel a teammate. After pleading once more with the professor, he permitted us to proceed with the project implementation despite Rugby Guy's lack of contribution. I informed the professor that I would be meticulously documenting all meetings, all communications via Facebook, text, and other messaging platforms, as well as tracking who submitted work. Then, inspiration struck. I had friends in computer science software engineering who regularly discussed their projects. That's when I learned that the university had its own Git system. For those unfamiliar with Git, it is source versioning software that allows individuals to push their individual contributions to a project, commonly referred to as committing. In short, you can bundle up files you've created or modified, add a comment to summarize your contributions and any additional notes, and then push it through for someone to review. This facilitates collaboration on a project among multiple individuals. This is just a brief summary of Git, but it suffices. I inquired further and discovered that, while primarily used by my friend's faculty, the entire university could create projects within this software using their university email accounts. I mentioned this to the professor, asking if it would be permissible to employ this software during our robot development and associated paperwork. He remarked, "That's the first time anyone has suggested it to me, but if it helps you keep organized, go for it. I'm eager to see how this unfolds." I reached out to the group through Facebook, informing them that I had devised a method to manage our work without constant exchanges of files through Facebook or email, and requested they message me privately so I could show them the way. Both members of Girl Power reached out individually, and I introduced them to the fascinating world of Git. Rugby Guy saw the message in the group chat, but never contacted me. I insisted that every single action we took, every alteration we made to any project-related file, be committed and pushed to our Git repository. Whether it was entire documents or just a single line, it was necessary to commit it. The team was also required to have meetings. Each meeting was organized via the Facebook group, and an email sent to each team member using their university email containing the time, location, and purpose of the meeting. After some persuasion during each Facebook discussion to arrange a meeting, we held each meeting in a different room than the previous ones. At the start of every meeting, I insisted on taking a group picture with my phone, encouraging everyone to make silly faces. Additionally, I set a dictaphone at the center of the table for each meeting, ensuring we had an audio record of our discussions. Meetings generally revolved around my progress on the development side, how much Girl Power accomplished regarding documentation, and Rugby Guy. Well, he was hardly present. He only attended 2 meetings, promising to work on the hardware aspect. At the end of each meeting day, I would email everyone the minutes, including an attachment of the group picture and the audio recording. After a few meetings, Girl Power pulled me aside to inquire about the picture taking and the motivation for changing rooms every time. I responded, "I enjoy the change of scenery, and memories are nice." They seemed uncertain and left it at that. Then came the actual construction of the robot. As Girl Power was responsible for most of the documentation, the burden lay on Rugby Guy and me for the development work, with me primarily handling the software side. Each time I arrived at the workshop, I took a selfie outside and another with random people inside the workshop. I would request their university email to send them the selfie as a quirky memory. I also documented the robot's status before and after each workshop visit. Rugby Guy showed up once to cut out a wooden base. As a result, we fell perilously behind. Girl Power did their best within their limited practical skills to assist, but the majority of the electronics and labor fell on me. Consequently, I ended up skipping several lectures and seminars to complete the implementation work. The situation became so critical that I realized I wouldn't be able to catch up on all the missed learning. Knowing I was in trouble, I declined all offers of assistance from the girls so they could focus on their own studies, while I resolved to ensure that the project was completed. By the time of the final presentation and competition, my team somehow managed to win our university's robot tournament by a narrow margin. Rugby Guy, who actually attended the competition and presentation, exhaled in relief, received hugs from Girl Power, and the professor took us aside to offer his congratulations, expressing that he genuinely did not anticipate our success. We all smiled and laughed, including Rugby Guy, who had no understanding of the impending storm heading his way. After all was said and done, every individual in the class received a form to evaluate their teammates anonymously, rating each named teammate's contributions from 0 to 4 for participation, quantity of contributions, quality of contributions, and teamwork, with 0 indicating no effort whatsoever. At the end was a box for comments. I, naturally, awarded the girls solid 4s across the board, as they were invaluable and I appreciated their efforts. They confided in me that they both planned to give each other and me 4s as well, and it turned out we collectively agreed to assign Rugby Guy solid 0s for his contributions and teamwork. Although they rated him with a 0 for participation, I gave him a 1 for technically attending 2 meetings. In the comments section, I simply wrote, "See evidence," submitted the form directly to the professor, and left before he could respond. Then I felt hopeful, opened my laptop, and started a new document. I also accessed the webpage for our Git repository, our Facebook group chat, and my university email. Remember, we used source versioning software to manage our project. Each commit bore the name of the contributor and their email address. I took screenshots of every single commit along with its message. Next, I captured all group discussions from Facebook, including Girl Power's private messages about the way. I documented every workshop selfie and selfies with random individuals. I inserted robot pictures from each session along with group selfies into the document. Finally, I compiled the sound recordings of meetings and meeting minutes into a zip file, along with text copies of all emails concerning meetings and selfie requests. I then sat on all this information until I received the anticipated email. The professor contacted me, asking to meet in his office to discuss the scores I had assigned my colleagues. On the day of the meeting, 2 hours prior, I went to the university library to print my documentation of photographs. While it was printing, I accessed the Git repository and created a link to join the project. I then opened my email and sent the professor the zip file I had compiled, stating, "Please find attached audio recordings of each meeting, emails I have sent to individuals with whom I took selfies, and a link granting you access to our Git repository." I organized my printed pages together, carefully placed them in my backpack, and proceeded to the professor's office. Upon knocking, I announced my arrival for the meeting. I was invited in, noticing that Girl Power appeared somewhat somber, while the professor bore a look of deep annoyance. I closed the door, and he immediately began, "You've submitted concerning scores for your colleague. Are you aware that the scores you provide your peers will impact their marks for this module?" We all nodded. "So you comprehend that the scores you assign to Rugby Guy will result in almost no marks for him, effectively causing him to fail the module outright and unable to pass the year?" We all nodded. "Did you know that Rugby Guy is repeating the year?" We all nodded. "Are you aware of the university's policy regarding repeating a year?" I mentioned my uncertainty regarding which policy he referenced. He clarified that, in essence, barring exceptional situations like personal issues or severe illness, one cannot repeat the same year a third time, meaning if one fails on the second attempt, they are dismissed. He then produced my form specifically. "Your comments say, 'See evidence,' but you neglected to provide any evidence. Before I inquire why you rated him so poorly, do you have your evidence with you, murderous solutions?" At this moment, I couldn't contain my smile. My cheeks began to ache while he appeared concerned for his struggling student. I removed my backpack, opened it wide, and revealed hundreds of pages bound together. I stated, "I sent you an email with a zip file containing the audio recordings from our meetings, plus numerous emails regarding meetings and selfies sent to others. In it, you will also find a link to access our Git repository, so you can examine it yourself. However, before you do, please take a look at this." I placed the document beside the textbook on his desk. The document was thicker than the textbook. As I described each set of pictures included in the document, the professor remained silent throughout my explanation. This encompassed the group selfies, which led to a realization for the girls, resulting in an audible, "Oh," from one of them. Once I concluded, silence enveloped the room for 2 minutes as we all gawked at the substantial pile of papers on his desk. The professor then instructed us that we could leave. A few days later, we received another email from the professor. Evidence accepted. Scores accepted. Initial mark for the final project 80%. Mark will be adjusted due to unbalanced contributions. I successfully passed several other modules, but failed one too severely to progress to the next year. However, girl power excelled, and they were overjoyed that our group grade was surprisingly elevated to a 2.1. I opted to switch from mechanical engineering to computer science at the end of that year. Edit a heartfelt thanks to whoever anonymously awarded this post gold. Much appreciation, my friend. Edit 2 formatting adjustment. Story 2. At a family gathering, I watched as my girlfriend's young cousins bullied a boy back after my girlfriend told them to defend themselves. Hello, everyone. Background: I reside in a town in the Netherlands that is home to a university, and a few years back, my girlfriend's cousin was accepted as an international student. My girlfriend is Japanese. Her family, which includes her father, mother, sister, and herself, relocated to the Netherlands when she was a child. Her cousin, who was still living in Japan when she applied, was accepted and is currently residing in a student accommodation in the Netherlands. Unlike dormitories in the United States, the building she occupies is directly managed by the university. That cousin is doing remarkably well, achieving good grades and progressing towards her diploma. Consequently, her family from overseas decided to vacation in the Netherlands this year, both for leisure and to facilitate a family reunion. The incident I am recounting occurred during this family gathering. My girlfriend's parents, along with her cousin's parents and another family, convened in a restaurant in my hometown. They brought along 2 young girls' sisters, whom I thought appeared to be around 8 or 9 years old. However, my girlfriend later informed me that they are actually 11 and 12 years old, but they do seem younger, likely due to their school uniforms, or so it appeared to me. I am not certain. The objective of the meeting was to catch up with family, and my girlfriend was asked if she could engage the 2 young girls for a few hours since she is the eldest among the group. My girlfriend and I are in our 40s. Her studying cousin is approximately 25, and as mentioned, the 2 girls are around 10, 11, and 12. My girlfriend was agreeable, but she invited me to join as well. Her cousin was fine with it. The 3 of us had already met a few times, and after all, the goal was to keep the young girls entertained. For context, the 2 girls primarily speak Japanese. They understand some English and can speak a few words, but their main language is Japanese. My girlfriend's cousin is proficient in both Japanese and English, and has even learned quite a bit of Dutch in her time here, which I find quite impressive given the few years she's been present. My girlfriend speaks Japanese, English, and Dutch, while I am fluent in Dutch, naturally, and English, but I have also picked up a fair amount of Japanese over the years, allowing me to generally grasp the main ideas of conversations, provided they are not too fast or complex. So our conversations mostly consisted of English and Japanese. A bully appears. We took the girls on a walk around my hometown, where they showed a keen interest. However, when we passed a playground, their attention quickly shifted in that direction. The 3 of us decided to sit on a bench while the girls enjoyed themselves. The playground offered several activities, including an inflatable bouncer, swings, and a sandbox for younger children. Plenty of options for play. The 2 girls wanted to enter the bouncer, which was acceptable to my girlfriend as long as they used the entrance exit on our side. helping to ensure they wouldn't get lost, and that we could keep an eye on them. The three of us chatted while also monitoring the inflatable structure. After about 15 minutes, I spotted the two girls again, seemingly by chance, near the exit with a smaller child in between them. I am not sure of her age, but I would estimate she was about 8 years old. I couldn't quite grasp the situation, but I noticed the child pointing toward the sandbox, and that is where they proceeded next. Before I could speak to my girlfriend, a young lady approached us and inquired in Dutch if we had seen a little girl pass by. It felt far too coincidental, so I asked, "Is she wearing a pink dress by any chance?" The woman's expression brightened as I indicated that she seemed to be with my girlfriend's younger cousins, and I pointed toward the sandbox. However, when we looked over, we noticed an older boy near the girls, whom I assumed was larger than them. He was evidently bullying them. The small girl was visibly crying, though she was being consoled by one of the younger cousins, while the other was trying to keep the boy at bay. We approached the sandbox just as the boy forcefully shoved one of the cousins aside and was clearly attempting to intimidate the young girl in the pink dress, but he was halted by the other cousin just as we arrived. The woman with us chastised the boy, insisting that he cease bothering the young children. The little troublemaker, however, displayed no concern for her words. The next moment, an irate woman, presumably the boy's mother, stormed over yelling. She fit the stereotype of a Karen, or, as we tend to refer to them here, a talkie. An argument broke out, mainly between the mother of the young girl in the pink dress and our Karen talkie. It escalated back and forth, revealing that, according to the boy's mother, her child had done nothing wrong by targeting someone half his size. This fine example of motherhood even had the audacity to blame the other mother for raising such a weak little girl. Essentially, she remarked, "That's what you get for raising such clueless kids." Then the Karen proclaimed, "Kids will be kids, just let them handle their own issues." Yet, she did make the boy leave with her as she walked away. The mother prepared to collect her child and leave, but in the meantime, the girl had settled down completely and was actually enjoying herself with the two cousins. Unknown to anyone else at that moment, my girlfriend decided to act on the earlier suggestion. First, she asked the mother to reconsider leaving because the children were having a great time together. She also expressed how remarkable children are, stating that even though they didn't speak the same language, they appeared to understand each other perfectly and were having fun. The mother agreed, and my girlfriend then addressed her cousins in Japanese. Her tone sounded exceedingly serious to me. It was the way she spoke, and the look she gave both girls that seemed firm. They both nodded and clearly replied, "Hi," which means, "Yes, ma'am." I believe I even noticed a slight bow of the head, though I couldn't be certain. Our little group decided to sit on a nearby bench, and for the next 5 minutes, nothing happened. We were simply engaging in casual conversation. Then the bully returned. The mother of the young girl attempted to rise, but my girlfriend stopped her and reassured her that her child was entirely safe. "Just watch. Trust me on this." The mother appeared visibly anxious but remained seated. It was then I observed that the demeanor and posture of the two cousins had completely transformed. They appeared much more confident and at ease. The boy began making a scene while one of the cousins rose to her feet, pointed at him, and shouted something in Japanese, of course. He once again attempted to shove her aside, but this time, she was quicker. She sidestepped, executed a move with her leg, and delivered him a significant shove. In the next moment, he found himself eating sand quite literally. He stood up, visibly furious, with sand covering his face. In a fit of rage, he became aggressive and attempted to strike one of the cousins with his fists. Yes, attempted. She dodged one swing, then seized his hand, spun it around, and in an instant, he found his arm twisted behind his back while screaming. The other cousin also stood up, gently patted the young girl on the head, made another move, and once more, both cousins forced the boy to the ground with force. When he looked up, the other cousin made a faux kicking gesture, as if to threaten him without actually moving her legs. My girlfriend nudged me, grinning widely, and indicated, "Surely that deserves a point for self-restraint, don't you think?" She was undeniably relishing every moment of it. Apparently, the boy wasn't completely foolish and took off running, while one cousin immediately turned back to the young girl, who was evidently still having a blast, not at all upset by the bully. "What the hell was that?" the mother exclaimed. My girlfriend informed her that her cousins were enrolled in the same self-defense classes she and her sister once attended, and that she had opted to give them permission to defend themselves as long as they did not go overboard, of course. The mother sought further details about these classes, but unfortunately for her, my girlfriend had to inform her that the actual school was located in a suburb of Tokyo, making it inaccessible for her daughter. Mommy returns with an official. We continued chatting for the next 10 minutes when the bully's mother stormed back with an official in tow. The term official in Dutch refers to buitengewoon opsporing samtenaar, which is akin to being a deputy without the appropriate training or weaponry. Generally, these officials tend to handle ticketing. He informed us that he had received a complaint from the woman about people assaulting her child, to which the mother of the young girl immediately retorted, "Whatever happened to letting kids resolve their own issues?" Interestingly, it appeared the whole scene hadn't gone unnoticed, as before we could respond, another person had rushed over. "I witnessed the entire incident, officer," an older woman proclaimed. Her brat, indicating the Karen Taki, was harassing and hitting the girl in the pink dress when those two outstanding kids intervened and protected her. Meanwhile, another man joined, officer, that brat got precisely what he deserved. He instigated it. The only thing that occurred was that those girls defended themselves against him. The officer listened patiently to everyone's accounts and ultimately decided to issue a citation to the boy's mother. I am assuming it was for disturbing the peace, but I do not have any specifics because at that point, we chose to leave and went our separate ways. Conclusion: during our walk back to the hotel restaurant, the cousins relayed the entire story. I learned something new as well. While they were in the bouncer, they spotted the boy bullying the young girl in the pink dress and instantly felt it was wrong, especially given that he was nearly twice her size. He even tugged at her hair while she was already distressed, which incited the cousins' anger. However, their initial response was merely to remove the boy from the situation. One cousin engaged the boy to prevent him from grabbing the girl's hair again, while the other comforted the girl and guided her to the exit, specifically the exit we had agreed upon. Therefore, the girl's mother had no idea she was leaving and became worried. The other cousin successfully lost the boy in the crowd initially before rejoining her sister near the exit. I asked my girlfriend why they didn't take action more swiftly, and she explained that they were not permitted to do so. Apparently, the first rule of self-defense is, always leave if you can. Her cousins are at a level where employing these techniques outside their training is strictly prohibited unless there is a clear threat or direct permission from a senior member of the same school. My girlfriend was bending the rules a little, but she assured me she would write up the entire incident so that the cousins could take her letter back with them. She was genuinely not joking when she spoke of points for self-restraint, as that would be her actual advice in the letter. Isn't it typical hypocritical behavior? Let the kids settle their disagreements until it suddenly doesn't suit you, right? Thank you for reading. Summary: my girlfriend's international family, Japanese, decided to vacation in the Netherlands this year and organized a family reunion. During the reunion, my girlfriend was tasked with supervising two of her younger cousins, age 11 and 12, for a few hours. She was agreeable to this, and her student cousins studying locally also joined, along with me. Initially, we explored my hometown, but when we passed a playground, the teenage cousins were eager to play, so we allowed them to do so. As they played, they encountered an older boy who was harassing a little girl who was easily half his size. The cousins were displeased by this. They took it upon themselves to extract the young girl from the bouncer they were in. I suspect she was around 8 or 9 years old. The boy followed them to the sandbox, where a brief confrontation occurred between the bully's mother and the young girl's mother. The Karen in this situation essentially reprimanded us, insisting that her son's actions were acceptable. Just let kids sort out their own problems. Unbeknownst to us, my girlfriend took this to heart and relayed to her cousins that if the boy harassed them again, they were free to defend themselves. The boy eventually returned, tried to shove one cousin, and ended up with his arm twisted behind his back and forcefully tossed into the sand by both cousins, who implied they were merely getting started. He took off running. The boy's mother later returned with an official, but numerous witnesses, having seen the incident, quickly intervened to defend the cousins. Mom of the Year, ultimately received a citation, but I do not have further details. Thank you once more for reading. I hope you found it enjoyable.